At 76 years old, I made one small mistake. I called my daughter-in-law by the wrong name at breakfast. Just once. Her name is Rebecca, but I called her Rachel. A simple slip of the tongue. The kind anyone could make on a tired morning. But Rebecca did not let it go. She looked at my son Thomas with wide eyes, like I had just confessed to a crime. "Thomas," she said slowly, "did you hear that? Your mother just called me Rachel." "Who is Rachel?" I felt my cheeks burn. "I meant Rebecca. I'm sorry. Just tired, I think." Rebecca stood up from the table, her coffee cup still in her hand. She placed it down hard enough that the sound echoed through the kitchen. "This is not the first time, Thomas. Last week she forgot where she put her glasses. The week before she left the stove on. Now she cannot even remember my name." Thomas said nothing. He just looked down at his plate, cutting his eggs into smaller and smaller pieces like he was trying to disappear into them. That was the moment everything changed. That was the morning my own family decided I was losing my mind. My name is Margaret Chen. I was born in San Francisco in 1949. I worked as a librarian for 35 years. I raised Thomas by myself after his father died in a construction accident. I paid for his college. I helped him buy his first car. I was there when he married Rebecca, even though I saw the coldness in her eyes from day one. But none of that mattered anymore. 'Cause I forgot a name. And in their eyes that made me useless. Rebecca started keeping a list. She taped it to the refrigerator where everyone could see it. She called it Mom's Forgetful Moments. Every time I misplaced my keys, she wrote it down. Every time I asked what day it was, she added it to the list. When I accidentally put the milk in the cupboard instead of the fridge, she took a photo and showed it to Thomas like it was evidence in a trial. I'm not stupid. I knew what she was doing. She was building a case against me. One afternoon I heard her on the phone in the hallway. "Yes, I am calling about my mother-in-law. She lives with us and we are seeing some serious mental decline. She gets confused easily. Forgets names, dates, where she is. We think she might need professional evaluation." I stood on the other side of the wall, my heart pounding so hard I thought it would break through my chest. She was calling a doctor. Talking about me like I was not even a person anymore. Just a problem to solve. That night, I went to my room and cried for the first time in years. Not because I was sad, but because I was angry. Angry that after everything I had done, everything I had sacrificed, this is how they saw me. As a burden. As someone broken. But then something inside me shifted. A voice, quiet but firm, whispered in my head. "If they think you are losing your mind, let them think it. Let them believe you are slipping. And while they are busy watching you fall, you gather your strength. You prepare. You fight back." That night I made a decision. I would not just survive this. I would win. I started paying closer attention. Not to my mistakes but to theirs. I watched how Rebecca talked to Thomas. How she controlled every conversation, every decision. I noticed how my grandson, Ethan, filmed me with his phone whenever I did something he thought was funny. He would laugh and say things like, "Grandma is at it again, guys. She just tried to microwave her socks." He posted those videos online. Thousands of people watched them. Strangers laughed at me, called me crazy, said I should be in a home. But I did not react. I stayed calm. I played the part they wanted me to play. Because I was planning something they would never see coming. The house I lived in was not even mine anymore. Not really. Had been my home for 40 years. The place where I raised Thomas. Where I planted roses in the front yard every spring. Where my husband and I used to sit on the porch and watch the sunset. But 3 years ago, when Thomas lost his job, he asked if he and Rebecca could move in temporarily. "Just until we get back on our feet, Mom. 6 months, maybe a year." Said yes. 'Cause that is what mothers do. We make room. We sacrifice. We give. 6 months turned into 3 years. And somewhere along the way they stopped asking permission for things. They stopped treating it like my house. Rebecca redecorated the living room without telling me. She threw away my old furniture and replaced it with sleek modern pieces that felt cold and unwelcoming. She took down the family photos and put up abstract art that meant nothing to anyone. When I asked her why, she just smiled. "We are updating the space, Margaret. Making it more current. You understand, right?" I did not understand. But I said nothing. 'Cause I was afraid. Afraid that if I complained they would leave. And then I would be alone. But now I realize I was already alone. I had been alone for a long time, surrounded by people who saw me as an obstacle, not a person. 2 weeks after the phone call, Rebecca brought home a stack of papers. She spread them out on the kitchen table and smiled at me like she was doing me a favor. "Margaret, we need to talk about your future. Thomas and I have been thinking. Maybe it is time we help you manage your finances. Just to make things easier for you." I looked at the papers. They were legal documents. Power of attorney. Guardianship forms. Documents that would give them control of everything I owned. My savings. My house. My life. I felt my hands start to shake, but I kept my face blank. "What is this?" Rebecca spoke slowly like I was a child. "This just means that if something happens to you, we can make decisions on your behalf. It is for your own protection, Margaret. We love you. We just want to make sure you are safe." I looked at Thomas. He would not meet my eyes. He just nodded and said, "It is the right thing to do, Mom." Picked up the pen. My hand hovered over the paper. And then I put the pen down. "I need time to think about this." Rebecca's smile disappeared. "Margaret, there is nothing to think about. This is what families do. They take care of each other." I stood up, my chair scraping against the floor. I said I need time. And then I walked out of the room. Behind me, I heard Rebecca mutter something to Thomas. "She is being difficult. We need to move faster before she does something stupid." That night I could not sleep. I lay in my bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about all the years I had given to this family. All the sacrifices. All the moments when I put their needs before my own. And what did I get in return? A list on the refrigerator. Videos mocking me. Legal papers designed to strip away my independence. I thought about my husband, David. He died 15 years ago, suddenly without warning. A heart attack on a Tuesday morning. One moment he was drinking coffee and reading the newspaper. The next he was gone. I remember Thomas crying at the funeral, holding on to me like I was the only solid thing in his world. "Mom," he said, "I do not know what I would do without you." Back then I believed him. Back then I thought our bond was unbreakable. But people change. Or maybe they just show you who they really are when they think you are too weak to fight back. I got out of bed and opened my closet. In the back, behind old coats and boxes of books, I found what I was looking for. Small fireproof safe. Inside was everything I had kept hidden. My marriage certificate. David's death certificate. The deed to the house, in my name only. Bank statements showing accounts they did not know about. And letters. Letters I had written to myself over the years, documenting moments when I felt invisible in my own home. I had been preparing for this longer than I realized. The next morning I made a phone call. I called someone I had not spoken to in almost 30 years. Her name was Dr. Vivian Park. She had been one of the children I used to babysit back in the 1980s. A smart, curious girl who loved books almost as much as I did. I used to let her stay late at the library after closing, reading by the lamplight while I organized the shelves. Now she was a lawyer. Very good one. I had followed her career from a distance, reading articles about the cases she won, the people she helped. When she answered the phone, I did not waste time with small talk. "Vivian," I said, "I need help. And I think you are the only person I can trust." There was a pause. Then her voice, warm and steady. "Miss Margaret, is that really you? And I am in trouble." We met the next morning at a coffee shop across town. I took the bus, telling Rebecca I was going to the library. She barely looked up from her phone. "Whatever, Margaret. Just be back before dinner. I am not cooking twice." Vivian was waiting for me in a corner booth. She looked different than I remembered. Older, of course, but also stronger. More confident. She stood up and hugged me tight. "Miss Margaret," she said. "I cannot believe it has been so long. We sat down and I told her everything. The list on the fridge. The phone calls to doctors. The legal papers. The videos my grandson posted online. The way they had slowly taken over my house, my life, my identity. Vivian listened without interrupting. She took notes on a yellow legal pad, her expression growing more serious with each detail. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair and looked at me with sharp, clear eyes. "Miss Margaret, do you have any proof of what they are doing?" "Not yet. But I can get it." She nodded. "Then that is what we do. We document everything. Every lie. Every manipulation. Every attempt to control you. And when the time is right, we show the world exactly who they are." She reached into her bag and pulled out a small device. "Look like a USB drive. This is a voice recorder. Keep it with you. Record every conversation. Especially the ones where they think you are not listening." I took it and held it in my hand like it was a weapon. Because that is exactly what it was. She also gave me a card with the name and number of a neurologist. "I want you to get a full cognitive evaluation. Independent. No connection to your family. We need proof that you are mentally sound. That you can make your own decisions." He nodded. "When?" "This week if possible. The sooner we have documentation, the better." We talked for another hour. She explained the legal process, what I would need to prove, what they would try to claim. She told me about other cases like mine. Elderly people whose families tried to take control under the guise of protection. "You are not alone in this," she said. "This happens more than people realize. But you have something most do not. You saw it coming. And you are fighting back before it is too late." When we left the coffee shop, I felt something I had not felt in months. Over the next few weeks, I became a spy in my own home. I kept the voice recorder in my pocket, hidden under my cardigan. I recorded Rebecca talking to her friends on the phone about how much money she would inherit once I was gone. I recorded Thomas telling his coworker that his mother was becoming a liability and they needed to act fast. I recorded Ethan laughing with his friends about how many views his grandma videos were getting, how he was making money off my humiliation. Every word was evidence. Every cruel comment. Every calculated lie. But I did not just record. I started acting. I played the role of a confused old woman better than any actor on a stage. I misplaced things on purpose. I asked the same questions twice. I pretended to forget what year it was. I even pretended to get lost in my own neighborhood once, standing on the corner looking confused until a neighbor brought me home. Rebecca loved it. She wrote everything down with glee. She told her friends that I was deteriorating rapidly. She even scheduled another doctor's appointment without telling me, planning to tell the doctor I was a danger to myself. But what she did not know was that I had already seen a doctor. Dr. Vivian had referred me to Dr. Samuel Torres, a neurologist with an impeccable reputation. I took a full cognitive exam, memory test, problem-solving exercises, spatial awareness, language skills, everything. The appointment took 3 hours. Dr. Torres was patient and kind. He explained each test before we did it. He never made me feel rushed or stupid. When the results came back, he smiled. "Mrs. Chen, your cognitive function is excellent. You scored in the 90th percentile for your age group. Your memory is sharp. Your reasoning is sound. There is absolutely no indication of dementia, Alzheimer's, or any form of cognitive decline." I felt tears prick my eyes. "So I am not losing my mind. Not even close. You are one of the sharpest 76-year-olds I have ever tested." I asked him to put it in writing. Every detail. Every test result. Every conclusion. Dr. Vivian kept the results in a sealed file. "We are saving this," she said. "For the right moment." That moment came sooner than I expected. It was a cold evening in early November. The kind of night where the fog rolls in thick and everything feels muted and gray. I was in the kitchen making tea when Rebecca came in holding more papers. She did not smile this time. She looked tired, annoyed, like I was a chore she was sick of dealing with. "Margaret," she said flatly, "we have made an appointment for you next week. Specialist. Someone who can evaluate your mental state and determine what level of care you need." I nodded slowly, stirring my tea. Bae. And we need you to sign these papers tonight. No more delays. No more excuses. This is happening whether you like it or not. I looked at the papers. They were not just power of attorney anymore. They were transfer documents. Papers that would move my house, my savings, everything into their names. Immediately, irrevocably, I felt a cold wave wash over me. But I did not let it show. Instead, I did something that surprised even me. Picked up the pen. I held it over the paper. And then I started to sign. Rebecca leaned forward, watching. Thomas stood in the doorway, arms crossed, looking relieved that this nightmare was finally ending. But halfway through my signature I stopped, put the pen down, and I looked Rebecca directly in the eyes. I already signed these, I said. Rebecca froze. What? I signed them last week. Do you not remember? I gave them to Thomas. Thomas looked confused. You did not. I tilted my head, blinking like I was trying hard to remember. Maybe it was someone else then. Was it you, Rebecca? Did I give them to you? Rebecca's face turned red. Margaret, stop playing games. You did not sign anything. Now sign these papers. Right now. I put the pen down carefully. I do not think I should sign anything until I talk to a lawyer. The room went completely silent. You could have heard a pin drop. Rebecca stared at me like I had just pulled off a mask and revealed someone she did not recognize. A lawyer? Why would you need a lawyer? We are your family. We are trying to help you. I stood up, my hands steady on the table. Because I said quietly, I do not trust you. The explosion that followed was spectacular. Rebecca screamed. She called me ungrateful, paranoid, delusional. She said I was losing my mind and that she was only trying to protect me. She grabbed the papers and threw them across the room. They scattered like birds startled into flight. Fine, she shouted. If you want to be stubborn, then you can figure it out on your own. But do not come crying to us when you end up homeless and alone, wandering the streets because you are too senile to remember where you live. Thomas tried to calm her down, but she pushed him away. She stormed out of the kitchen, and I heard her slam the bedroom door so hard the walls shook. Thomas stood there, looking at me like he did not know who I was anymore. Mom, he said weakly. Why are you doing this? We are just trying to help you. I looked at my son. The boy I raised. The man I thought I knew. And I said the hardest thing I have ever had to say. No, Thomas. You are not trying to help me. You are trying to control me. There is a difference. He opened his mouth to argue, but nothing came out. He just stood there, lost and confused. Then he turned and walked away. I stood alone in the kitchen, my tea growing cold on the counter. But for the first time in months, I did not feel afraid. Felt strong. The next day, Dr. Vivian filed a restraining order on my behalf. It stated that Rebecca and Thomas were engaging in financial abuse, emotional manipulation, and elder exploitation. It included the recordings, the fake doctor appointments, the forged signatures on documents they had already tried to file without my knowledge. The videos Ethan posted online that depicted elder abuse. It also included my clean cognitive evaluation from Dr. Torres. When the papers were served, Rebecca called me. She was screaming so loud I had to hold the phone away from my ear. You did this. You went behind our backs. After everything we have done for you. I did not go behind your backs, I said calmly. I protected myself. There is a difference. She hung up on me. And I never heard from her again. But Thomas called later that night. His voice was shaking. Mom, I did not know. I swear I did not know it was this bad. Rebecca told me she was helping you. She said you were getting confused and that we needed to step in before you hurt yourself. I thought I was doing the right thing. Part of me wanted to be angry. Part of me wanted to scream at him for being weak, for letting his wife manipulate him, for forgetting who raised him. But all I felt was sadness. A deep, aching sadness for the relationship we used to have. The one that died somewhere along the way without either of us noticing. Thomas, I said softly, you stopped seeing me a long time ago. You stopped listening. And when I needed you most, you chose her over me. You chose convenience over truth. And that is something I cannot forgive right now. Maybe someday. But not today. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Then he said, in a voice so small it barely sounded like him, "I am sorry, Mom." "I know," I said. "But sorry does not fix this." Hung up. I sat in the quiet of my room, feeling the weight of everything that had happened. The betrayal. The hurt. But also the strength. The clarity. The knowledge that I had fought back and won. The legal battle took 6 months. 6 long, exhausting months of court dates, depositions, and legal arguments. Rebecca fought hard. She hired an expensive lawyer, someone who specialized in guardianship cases. She claimed I was mentally unstable. She brought in witnesses, mostly her friends, who testified that they had seen me acting confused and forgetful. One woman, someone I had never even met, stood up in court and said she had witnessed me wandering the neighborhood at night in my nightgown, talking to myself. It was a complete lie. But she said it with such confidence, such conviction, that for a moment I wondered if the judge would believe her. But Dr. Vivian was ready. She stood up calmly and asked the witness a simple question. "Can you tell me what date this incident occurred?" The woman hesitated. I am not sure exactly. Few months ago." Dr. Vivian nodded. "And what street was Mrs. Chen on when you saw her?" I do not remember the exact street." Dr. Vivian smiled. "Interesting. Because Mrs. Chen has a GPS tracking app on her phone, installed by her family, ironically, to monitor her movements. And according to the data, she has never left the house past 9 p.m. in the last year. So either you are mistaken about the date and location, or you are lying under oath." The woman's face went pale. She looked at Rebecca, then back at Dr. Vivian. I must have been confused." The judge was not amused. She dismissed the witness and made a note in her file. Then Dr. Vivian played the recordings. One by one, each damning conversation was played for the entire courtroom to hear. Rebecca talking about inheriting my money. Thomas discussing how to fast-track the guardianship process. Ethan laughing about exploiting me for social media content. The courtroom was silent except for those voices. Cold. Calculating. Cruel. Then Dr. Vivian presented my cognitive evaluation. She called Dr. Torres to the stand. He testified that my mental faculties were not only intact but exceptional for my age. He explained each test I had taken, each result, each conclusion. "Mrs. Chen is one of the most mentally sharp patients I have evaluated in years," he said. "There is absolutely no medical basis for guardianship." Rebecca's lawyer tried to argue. "But Mrs. Chen has exhibited forgetful behavior. She has documented incidents of confusion." Dr. Torres nodded. "Yes, according to documentation provided by family members who stand to gain financially from her incapacity. But when evaluated independently, objectively, there is no evidence of cognitive decline. What I see is a woman under extreme stress, being gaslit by her own family." The word gaslit hung in the air like smoke. Then Dr. Vivian did something I did not expect. She called Ethan to the stand. He walked up slowly, looking younger than his 19 years. He would not look at me. He kept his eyes on the floor. Dr. Vivian asked him simple questions. "Did you post videos of your grandmother online? Did you mock her in those videos?" He hesitated. "Yes." "Did you profit from those videos? Did you make money from advertisements and views?" I made a little bit." "How much is a little bit?" He shifted uncomfortably. "Around $3,000. $3,000. Made by humiliating your grandmother. By portraying her as senile and incompetent to millions of strangers." I did not think about it like that. I just thought it was funny. Everyone was doing it. Making videos about their family. Dr. Vivian nodded slowly. "And did you know those videos were being used by your parents to justify taking away your grandmother's legal rights? To prove she was incompetent?" He looked up for the first time, his eyes wide. "Oh, I swear I did not know that. But you continued making them. Even after you saw how they hurt her." Ethan's voice broke. "I'm sorry. I did not think." No, Dr. Vivian said quietly. You did not. She let him step down. He walked past me, tears streaming down his face, and I felt nothing. No anger. No pity. Just emptiness where love used to be. The judge, an older woman with steel in her eyes and gray hair pulled back in a tight bun, looked at Rebecca and Thomas. She had been silent through most of the trial, listening, observing, taking notes. Now she spoke. I have been a family court judge for 27 years, she said. I've seen many cases like this. Families who claim they are acting out of love, out of concern, out of duty. But what I see here is not love. It is exploitation. It is manipulation. And it is abuse. She looked directly at Rebecca. You have not proven that Mrs. Chen is unfit. You have only proven that you wanted control. Control of her assets. Control of her life. And you were willing to destroy her reputation and her dignity to get it. She turned to Thomas. And you, Mr. Chen, allowed this to happen. You stood by while your wife dismantled your mother's autonomy. You chose to believe convenient lies rather than face uncomfortable truths. Thomas looked like he might be sick. The judge continued. This court denies the petition for guardianship. The restraining order will remain in place. Additionally, I am ordering Mr. and Mrs. Chen to pay Mrs. Margaret Chen's legal fees in full. And I am referring this case to the district attorney's office for investigation into potential elder abuse charges. Rebecca's face went white. She grabbed her lawyer's arm. Can she do that? Her lawyer nodded grimly. She absolutely can. The judge was not finished. As for you, young man, she said, looking at Ethan. I am recommending that your case be reviewed by the state's cyberbullying and exploitation task force. What you did constitutes digital elder abuse, and there may be civil penalties. Ethan started crying harder. The judge banged her gavel once. Case dismissed. Rebecca stood up so fast her chair fell over backward. She did not even look at me. She just grabbed her purse and stormed out of the courtroom, her heels clicking like gunshots on the marble floor. Thomas stood more slowly. He looked at me one last time. His eyes were red. His face was hollow. I waited for him to say something, anything. But he just turned and walked away. Ethan lingered for a moment. He opened his mouth like he wanted to speak, but Dr. Vivian stepped between us. Not now, she said firmly. You have done enough. He left, shoulders shaking. And then it was just me and Dr. Vivian, standing in the empty courtroom. She put her arm around my shoulders. You did it, Miss Margaret. You won. I did not feel like I had won. Felt tired. But also, underneath it all, relieved. Free. We walked out into the sunlight together, and for the first time in years I could breathe. The weeks after the trial were strange. Quiet. I was still living in the house technically because it was mine. But Rebecca and Thomas had to move out within 30 days per the restraining order. They packed in silence. I stayed in my room most of the time, listening to them move through the house like ghosts. One afternoon I came downstairs to get water and found Thomas standing in the living room, holding a framed photo. It was from his college graduation. Him in his cap and gown, me standing next to him, both of us smiling so wide it looked like our faces might crack. He did not notice me at first. He just stood there, staring at the picture like he was trying to remember who those people were. Cleared my throat. He jumped, nearly dropping the frame. I did not hear you. You can take that, I said. If you want. He looked at the photo, then at me. Do you hate me? Question hung between us. Thought about it. Really thought about it. No, I said finally. I do not hate you, Thomas. But I do not trust you anymore. And I do not know if I ever will again. He nodded slowly. That is fair. He set the photo down on the table and walked out. He did not take it with him. 3 days later they were gone. The house felt enormous and empty without them. But it also felt like mine again. I spent the first week just cleaning, scrubbing away the feeling of them. I took down Rebecca's cold modern decorations and brought back my old furniture from storage. I rehung the family photos. I planted new roses in the front yard. I was reclaiming my space. My life. Dr. Vivian came by one afternoon with takeout and wine. We sat on the porch, watching the sun set, and she asked me what I was going to do next. I do not know, I said honestly. Have my house, my savings, my freedom. But I also have a lot of empty rooms and a lot of quiet. She smiled. So fill them. Do something you have always wanted to do. Something just for you. That night, I sat at my kitchen table with a notebook and a pen. And I started writing. Not a letter. Not a journal entry. But a story. My story. I wrote about growing up in San Francisco as the daughter of Chinese immigrants. About working in the library, surrounded by books and silence and the smell of old paper. About meeting David at a community dance. How he asked me to marry him under the Golden Gate Bridge. About raising Thomas, the joy and the heartbreak of watching him grow up. About the slow betrayal, the way family can turn into strangers when they stop seeing you as a person. I wrote for hours. Weeks. And then I started a blog. I called it Silver and Strong. I published my story in chapters, piece by piece, holding nothing back. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Messages poured in from people all over the country. Mostly women, mostly older, all with similar stories. Families who tried to control them. Children who saw them as burdens. Systems that failed to protect them. They thanked me for speaking up, for sharing, for being brave. One message stood out. It was from a woman named Patricia in Ohio. She was 72 and going through the exact same thing I had been through. Her daughter was trying to get guardianship, claiming Patricia was senile. But Patricia was sharp. Where? Terrified. I read your story, she wrote, and I realized I am not crazy. I am not the problem. And I do not have to accept this. I wrote her back immediately. I gave her Dr. Vivian's contact information. I told her how to document everything. How to get an independent evaluation. How to fight back. 2 months later she messaged me again. I won, she wrote. Because of you I won. That is when I realized my fight was not just for me. It was for everyone. Every person who has been called crazy, forgetful, or useless just because they got older. I started a non-profit organization. I called it the Elder Justice Project. We provide free legal consultations, connect people with attorneys, and offer resources for anyone facing family exploitation or elder abuse. Dr. Vivian joined the board. So did Dr. Torres. And slowly, we built a network of people who believe that getting older does not mean losing your voice. The organization grew faster than I ever imagined. Within a year, we had helped over 300 people. Some won their cases. Some did not. But all of them knew they were not alone. I also kept writing. I published a book, a memoir called Silent No More, about my experience and the fight for elder justice. It became a bestseller. Not because it was beautifully written or because I was famous, but because people needed to hear it. They needed to know that fighting back was possible. I did interviews, appeared on podcasts, spoke at conferences, and every time I said the same thing. You are not too old to stand up. You are not too weak to fight back. And your voice matters, no matter how many people tried to silence it. A year after the trial, I received a letter. It was from Ethan. The envelope was wrinkled, like he had carried it around for days before finally mailing it. Inside was a single page, handwritten in shaky letters. Grandma, it said. I'm sorry. I know that does not mean much now, and I do not expect you to forgive me. But I need you to know that I see what I did. I see how I hurt you. I was young and stupid and selfish, and I thought it was just a joke. I did not realize I was part of something so much bigger and worse. I've been in therapy, trying to understand why I thought it was okay to treat you like that. My therapist says I was seeking validation from strangers instead of appreciating the real people in my life. She is right. I deleted all the videos. I know it does not undo the damage, but I could not stand seeing them up there anymore. I am also working with an organization that educates young people about digital elder abuse. I talk about what I did and why it was wrong. I tell them about you and what I lost because I did not think about the consequences. I do not expect anything from you. I do not deserve your forgiveness or your time. But I wanted you to know that you changed me. What you did, standing up and fighting back, it woke me up. And I am trying every day to be better than the person I was. At the bottom, he had written his phone number. I folded the letter and sat with it for a long time. I thought about Ethan as a little boy, how he used to help me in the garden, how he would ask me to read him stories before bed. I thought about the young man he had become, cruel and careless. And I thought about the person he was trying to be now. Forgiveness is complicated. It is not something you owe to people just because they apologize. It is not something that happens automatically with time. It is a choice. A gift you give not because someone deserves it but because you decide you want to. I was not ready to give that gift yet. Maybe I would never be. But I kept the letter. I put it in my desk drawer, next to the other important documents of my life. And I left the door open. Not wide open. Just a crack. Enough that someday, if he kept working on himself, if he kept trying to be better, we might find our way back to each other. But that was for later. Maybe much later. Maybe never. And I was okay with that. Thomas reached out once, about 6 months after the trial. He asked if we could meet for coffee. Said no. He asked again a few months later. Said no again. The third time he asked, something in his message was different. He did not make excuses. He did not say Rebecca had manipulated him or that he did not understand what was happening. He just said, "I failed you, Mom. And I have to live with that. But I want you to know I am trying to understand why. And I am sorry." I still said no. But I also said maybe someday. Because the truth is, some relationships can be repaired. And some cannot. And you do not owe anyone your time or your forgiveness just because they are family. Family is supposed to be the people who protect you, who see you, who love you even when you are difficult or forgetful or old. But when family becomes the source of your pain, you have every right to walk away. And that is what I did. I walked away from the people who hurt me, and I walked toward a life that was finally truly mine. I am 77 now. I wake up every morning in my house, the one I fought to keep, and I make myself tea. I sit by the window and watch the neighborhood come to life. I see families walking their dogs, couples holding hands, children laughing, and I feel something I have not felt in years. Is real deep unshakable peace.